Okay, hi. So I haven't done a video like this in a while, or at all for that matter. I think it's literally been like 3 months since I've last made a video. It's been a while. Today I'm doing something a little different here. I'm going to be ranking all the Piggy maps. Um, I recently got this idea, just seeing a lot of tier lists coming out lately on other games. Um, and I did one on skins off screen. I'm probably not going to do that one, unless that's something that wants to be done, but it'd kind of be weird to do it twice. So I don't know. Maybe I do that in a collab or something. But I wanted to go through this and basically just talk about the map itself, some of the like skins that came along with it, that type of stuff. So this might be a longer video, but I thought it'd be a little different compared to just doing like 30-second clip, because I do a lot of those, or used to, I should say. So, without further ado, let's just get right into it. House. First map to ever come out. Um, this was way back in 2020. I was not around when House came out. I first got into the game around the time that Gallery and Forest were coming out in that kind of area. I think I like first played the game like around the week that Forest came out, but like not exactly when it came out. Um, so I don't have like personal memories with House or Station or any of the maps like that, but I do remember kind of the earlier build of the game nonetheless. Um, Obviously with this map there are very few skins in the game, aka like default ones. There was only 4 at the time if I remember. Um, so yeah, there wasn't too much with this map. Um, it's very basic, especially now with some of the details being eliminated. Uh, it uses a default skin, obviously, for the bot character. There's no real lore implications. It's an intro map. I don't really know what to say about it. Um, is it playable? Yes. In fact, if you play Book 1, this is probably like the second most played map right behind Carnival. Um, and for that reason, I think I'm going to go ahead and put it just like C tier. It works, it's there, but I wouldn't necessarily say it's like top tier map here. Um, yeah, I don't know. Station. Another decent map. This is one I don't see played often. Personally, I actually quite enjoy this map when it's played, just for the reason that like it's not played that often. Um, it has a couple unique mechanics. Like, it was the first map to not just go through the white key door and instantly escape. You actually had to fill up the car afterwards. It's one of the only maps to do that, which is kind of interesting. Um, I don't even remember the next map after that where the white key isn't like technically the escape. Anyways, there's that whole thing. It's quite a while. If I or if I recall correctly, I think it is City is the next map where it's not just a white key. So decent gap there. Nonetheless, I really enjoy this map. Um, it's a quite balanced map in my opinion. Not exactly like top tier by any means, but it is pretty balanced nonetheless. Um, the skins brought with it were Doggy and Memory. Obviously, those are two more well-known characters. I wouldn't say like perfect by any means, but they're more well-known characters. Um, Personally, I'm gonna put this in A tier, just for that reason. Like, it's fun to play on, in my opinion. It's not perfect, obviously. Most of these maps aren't perfect, but it's fun to play nonetheless. Okay, Gallery. Gallery's an interesting one. Is it a bad map? No. Um, it's one of the smallest, if not like the smallest map in the game. Very, very small map. It's on Infection. It is one of my personal most fun Infection maps to play because once you get like 3 piggies all chasing you down on Gallery, it is very intense and really enjoyable. Um, I'm an Infection fan myself more than anything, so I think Gallery is a really fun map for that. Again, is it really like special? No, not really. Um, there wasn't too much skins to come out around this time. Um, there was so Teacher and Foxy is what I have all the skins kind of pulled up on the side here. Teacher and Foxy, not really exactly groundbreaking skins or anything. And obviously this was before all the redesigns too. So the models for them were interesting to say the least. Um, I'm the only thing that's gonna make me put it like right above House is I think thematically it's a little better. Like the whole idea with the eggs, which we never saw again, and just that little bit more enjoyment than House. But it's not really like noteworthy besides that. Forest. Okay. Thing with Forest, it's the first map to have two bots in the game, with Doggy and Sheepy. Um, it's one of the darker maps, which I do personally enjoy quite a bit. Um, I don't know. So personally for me, and I don't know if this is just any time I play Forest, but for me this map is very easy for the Piggy side, in my opinion. Especially with some of the bugs with the recent build of Piggy, like a lot of the crawl spaces don't work right now, so Piggies can just walk right through them. Like previously, this was very survivor sided. Um, Specifically, the crouch spot where the treehouse is, that basically clips through an entire wall, was really powerful, and the only way for Piggies to really lock down that area was using traps, and even then, it could be very easily exploited. Now that that's kind of gone right now, or at least for certain skins, I really feel like this is more Piggy-sided map now. It's very easy to trap survivors into one area where like they can't escape from easily, or better yet, if you know what you're doing, and this goes for all maps, like you can do this on any map if you're a more like skilled player, but locking down items to one area is super easy on this map because like typically the treehouse is going to have one or two items, so you can very easily lock down the treehouse and they cannot get up there. In fact, the wrench is guaranteed to be up there. So you can easily lock down the wrench early game if they don't go for it, which can be a super powerful move. And obviously they can't just jump off the treehouse because they'll die, similar to jumping up the plank at the top of house. So it's a very easy spot to kind of camp essentially. Um, I'm gonna put it in B tier, personally. Like, it's a little one-sided at times, but you can still play the map pretty well, in my opinion. So, yeah, I don't know. And like I said, this is about the map that I started getting into the game, which is why I also kind of have a bit of a better outlook for the game. Some people probably completely despise this map, and I wouldn't blame them, honestly. Okay, um, school. This map is rarely played. Honestly, I very, very rarely see this map played. This map and City are the two I like, and Hospital to a degree as well. Like, I never see these maps played unless it's like for a challenge or something. You'll probably see them once in a blue moon. Um, School, it's again not a bad map. I actually think this map is really like it can suit both sides well. Like survivors, it's really hard to find survivors early game, at least for me at times. Like if you're going, and a lot of this list I'm gonna go based off of like better players, like better piggies, better survivors, people who actually know what they're doing, not just, your bacon hair that's blindly running around. I'm not gonna base it on that because obviously bacon hairs, no offense, typically they're pretty stupid. So a good player, a good survivor, can very easily stay out of sight of a piggy on this map. It's a darker map as well, which helps them even more. And the line of sight can be really hard at times. Like again with Forest, going back to Forest, it's a very open map, really easy for piggies to like find survivors early. School isn't like that unless you are like in that general area when they spawn. You can typically stay out of line of sight. So for piggies, they're having to predict movement quite a bit. And I know I'm talking like really technical, but that's just me. With that said, though, once you unlock the basement, it also becomes very piggy-sided. All they have to do is lock down the basement, and you literally like cannot escape very easily. Like you have to bait the piggies, or just kind of accept your fate, or have someone use bunny on them. And obviously, if you use bunny too many times, well, you're stuck. So it can be very sort of or piggy-sided, but I still would say it's not a bad map. I'm gonna personally put it at like a high C here. Um, I would actually like to see this map played even more. That's just me though. Actually, no, I'm gonna put it at low B. Never mind. Hospital. Um. Oh, I forgot to mention with school, it also brought Pandy and Bunny to, I would say, more popular skins. Mainly Bunny. Bunny's a very popular skin even today. I still see a couple people who like to run Bunny. But anyway, back to Hospital. Hospital kind of follows the same thing as school. Um, for survivors, it's really easy to get Piggy to lose your line of sight. You can stay pretty stealthy if you know what you're doing, especially if you have a good pair of headphones that can just listen to what's going on in the map. Unless they're running a really quiet skin, it's fairly easy to just stay out of line of sight of Piggy, avoid the traps. But with that said, Piggy can also really lock this map down very quickly. With a good placed trap or two, you can completely block doorways and end chases really quickly. Um, I've done that plentiful times on this map when I play it. Um, and kind of, again, with school locking down the basement, you can very easily lock down the exit. And certain areas like the vial room, it's not that hard to lock the map down. Um, between hospital and school, I personally like this map just slightly more than school. I think it could just partially be because I get to play it more, but also I just thematically, I think I like it just slightly more. Um, in terms of skins, we had, of course, Barry being the bot, who is one of my favorite like bot skins personally. I absolutely love the Barry skin. At least book one. I guess book two is typically better in all regards, but like out of book one, Barry's one of the best skins for a bot. Um, and then Skelly, I remember when Skelly used to be like, if you had Skelly, you were respected. Obviously, that's not the case anymore by a long shot, but it's still pretty cool. I'm gonna go ahead and put it like also B tier, just slightly higher than school. Metro. Okay. I really like Metro, and I haven't been talking about the story too much. Honestly, the story is kind of just like there for a while. It really doesn't pick up too much until book two, which is why I haven't talked about it too much. But like book one's pretty straightforward apocalyptic story. Um, obviously, like one through three have very little story. It's just them running. Four is basically the same thing, except oh no, doggy's infected. Like not much going on there. Chapter five, we finally get Bunny and like the first actual like somewhat buildup of a story, which is kind of cool. Um, and then we also learn Mr. P around that time, all that good stuff. Hospital's kind of good for the story as well, just for the whole thing with Mr. P like dumping us and all that. Like back then, that was like the huge twist. Um, but for Metro, I think Metro's the first time that like you really start to feel the story a little bit. Obviously, like Doggy being infected, I didn't feel too much going on there. I didn't really like. I shouldn't say I didn't care, but like most people kind of just moved on. Bunny though was talked about for a while. Like in the community, I think Bunny was one of the first like somewhat talked about like characters that when they got infected, it was like pretty big. At least more than Doggy from what I experienced. So like story wise, it's the first chapter in my opinion that has like somewhat decent story implications. You could make an argument for like Forest or Hospital or School or anything like that, but I personally think this is the first map to really do it and like hit home with it. In terms of the gameplay kind of same thing as the previous two. As a survivor, it's very easy to stay stealthy. I would say not as easy as school or hospital, but still easy enough. And then as Piggy, you can very easily lock down the map. Um, you can lock down vent crawl spaces. You can literally lock down the spawn, and it is really hard to get out of sometimes. I've had people who will just instantly rush the spawn and completely lock it down, and you cannot do anything but activate the trap and hope that Piggy is not near you when you do, so that you can get out of the spawn, or pray that someone can get the blue key in time. That is a thing. Um, I'm personally going to go ahead and put Metro in B tier as well. Uh, you'll probably see a lot of maps here go into B tier. Um, and then we also had, so for this map, the bots were Piggy, which I don't really care for that skin. It's just kind of a redesigned default skin, but a little bit more detail. Tigry, I do like that skin quite a bit. The dual blades is super cool, but I don't know. I think I put him on a B tier whenever I did my tier list for skins. And then later we also got Dino Piggy. I do not like Dino Piggy whatsoever. I really don't. I think the skin just looks really awkward. Um, we also got Infection around this time, my personal favorite game mode ever to come out. Actually, I'm gonna go ahead and put it above Forest. I'm not gonna lie. And also the alarm trap. So we had quite a bit with this chapter. It was a pretty influential chapter coming out here. Um, if I recall right, Infection's also the first like game mode that wasn't player or bot based, which is pretty dang important. Um, so yeah, pretty heavy chapter. I think like solid B tier, a little bit more, and it could have been an A tier, but like it's a solid B tier. Carnival. I'm just gonna say this right now. I fucking hate Carnival. It's going in D tier immediately. Um, I mean, number one, it is overplayed to hell and back. If you have ever played on Piggy Book 1, from the moment Carnival came out to now, it has not changed. Carnival's the number one played map. Like, literally, I swear, over 40 or 50% of the matches in Book 1 will be Carnival, if not House. Like, those two, but mainly Carnival, are always picked. And it comes down to one thing. It is an easy map. As a survivor, you can beat this map in under 2 minutes. I have done it plenty of times. It is not a hard map whatsoever. Even when Infection comes out, I can beat this map incredibly easily. Like, I have been on games where I've had 5 people against me on Infection, and I've still beat the map with over 5 minutes to spare. It is not a hard map to juke, to move around in. The line of sight, like, it's a very, very open map, even more open than Forest. It's, I mean, I wouldn't say it's a bad map. It's just, it's been played over and over and over again to the point that it's not that fun at all. While we're here, we also had Clowny and Pony introduced. Clowny, I think, is a decent design. It fits the Carnival map, but it's nothing noteworthy. Pony, kind of same thing. Back in his introduction, when all he had was a yellow shirt and I think it was like brown pants and the wooden sword. It was just a basic skin, nothing really crazy there. Obviously, he looks a lot better now, but Carnival's going in D tier. One of the only maps you'll probably see in D tier, honestly. Um, yeah. Okay, City. Um, I'm gonna be honest right now. This is the only map that's gonna go in S tier. If I can drag. If I can drag. If I okay, there we go. City. I think out of Book 1, City did it the best. It is a hard map for sure, especially as Survivor. As a Survivor, this map is hard. Essentially, you have to do 4 things that are fairly disconnected from one another. You have to go get the carrot, which is completely disconnected from getting the wrench, completely disconnected. The only two I'd say are like somewhat connected is the key code and the fire extinguisher, and that's kind of a like lengthy process on some runs of the map. Um, but no, this map's really good. Honestly, it makes use of both open maps with the streets mixed with the tight like areas of the like hotel building as well as the office building. We had quite a few lore implications here. That was really cool to see. Um, we had Ellie with this map, which another great bot skin in my opinion, just like a little underneath Barry, but still a really cool skin. We also had the grandmother. As a secondary bot, she exists. Nothing like too crazy. It's really easy to avoid her. Um, and then we had Zizzy, who is well, one of the best bot skins in the game for Book One, in my opinion. Or not bot skins, sorry. One of the best Book One skins, in my opinion. Like, her theme is super cool. Um, her whole stance and kind of vibe that she gives off as a skin is super cool. Um, on top of this, we had Giraffe and Devil skins being added a little after the map was released. Giraffe, like no one ever plays Giraffe. Devil I don't like too much, but like it's still a decent enough skin. And we also had Trader, which is the game mode of Trader. Um, I wouldn't call it the best game mode in the world. Trader's kind of just there, but as a party mode, it's not bad. Like it's fun to do every once in a while, or to do for a challenge. It's a nice little fresher game mode to play. But overall, like this map just does it perfectly. It's really fun. Sure, there's like a bug or two on the map that I've noticed, but everything from story to gameplay, I think, was like really nicely covered here for book one. For book one standards, obviously book two, it would kind of falter, but as a book one map, it's fairly solid. Um, yeah, this is. I'm just gonna say now, this is the only book one map to hit S tier. I'm just gonna say it right now. Mall. This is another really often played map. Um, I kind of have mixed feelings about this one. Like, it's not a bad map by any means. It's for a book one map, it's more technically like more advanced, I would say. You have the sensors, you have the mousy and event segment, which is very easy, but it's still there. You have the claw machine, you have the little laser window thing or mirror for the like bank vault. Like it's a more technical, advanced map for book one. Um, Overall, I think it plays really well. It's a very balanced map. Survivors have again line of sight that you can utilize. You can also very easily get around traps and stuff. But as piggies, they can also very easily set up traps that can make bad choke points. If you know how to play Maul really well, like as a piggy, you can completely deny areas with traps. Um, One notable example is the upstairs area. With how tight it is very easy to just completely deny areas over there. Um, Along with the map, we had the Robbie skin and the Mimi skin, both of which, they're okay. Nothing crazy to really be added. We had black hole traps, which are usually regarded as one of the better traps in the game, although they don't work 100% of the time. Typically, they only work like 60% of the time, but when they do, they can be pretty devastating, especially during a chase. Um, and then also with this map, we had the jailbreak crossover, which gave Pulley, which was a pretty cool event to come around. It was the first like bigger event, if I recall correctly, um, which was really cool. Overall, I'm gonna put it still A tier, but I'm gonna go ahead and put it. Yeah, we'll put it ahead of Station, but like it'll probably go down later on. Okay, Outpost. This kind of falls under the same thing with Mall for me. Like, it's not a bad map. I don't dislike the map. Um, this is another map that, especially new players, once they kind of get over Carnival and House, they'll typically move on to Outpost. You'll see this map played quite a bit as well. Um, it's not a bad map. The tank is super cool. As a book one like mechanic. There's different things. They change up the formula in a few different ways. However, I'm gonna say right now, this is a very piggy-sided map. Especially with the kind of current way the game plays. I can't think of the name. I was gonna say meta, but obviously, like this isn't a current meta of the game. Just the current setup of the game. It's a very piggy-sided map. There are various choke points that you can put traps in and just completely deny areas. It's very easy to trap players into a single location, like where you get the gasoline. It's very easy to trap players up there. Um, One that most players have probably, or at least most decent players have gotten into, is getting trapped in the tank area once you've moved it and you've used the bullet. A good player who's playing Piggy can very easily trap you over there and just camp the rest of the game, since obviously you have to get around them with the keycard in order to escape, and you can't just bring Pony over there to use the carrot that typically spawns in there. So it's a very Piggy-sided map, very easy to choke people off of certain areas, but it's not a bad map. I'm gonna put it in B tier, probably like underneath um, Forest here. On top of that, we had Soldier and Torture, I believe, were the two skins here. Yeah. Um, Nothing too crazy. And then also, shortly after, we also had Daisy, Parasy, and Teleporters. This was more for distorted memory, which I'll talk about shortly here. But like both those skins and the Teleporters, they're not bad. I don't see Teleporters used too much anymore. Um, but they're still decent enough. Um, okay, Plant. So Plant was obviously the end of book one. There was quite a few things to be added here. So number one, first map to have two phases, obviously. We had the first phase, which was just a normal plant map, and then the second phase, which was kind of the memory section, as I like to call it. Uh, Very unique concept. The only other time we like really see this is chapter 12 of book two. Um, it's not a bad idea. It honestly isn't a bad idea. The issue with this map, it's very piggy-sided as well, especially Infection. I hate playing Infection on this map, and I like playing Infection, but on this map it is a really bad time. And the key reason I say this is just because, again, you can get very easily trapped, especially in Phase 2, because there's no other way out but the tiny little doorways they give you in between the memory areas. Um, One that I typically always get trapped in is in school, that little area there with the tables and the safe. Typically, players will just kind of wait for you right there, and they will not like try to charge you or anything. It kind of sucks, not gonna lie. So, with that said, there's also a lot of good things going for it. We had Mr. P as finally a character we actually went up against. It can be a double-edged sword. I think in theory, he's a cool concept. He has a ranged weapon against you, and it also just kind of adds more pressure. But at the same time, the fact that he is silent has killed me so many times, and it sucks. Like, you'll just be doing your own thing, and suddenly he'll turn a corner, and you cannot see it, especially in the green keycard area, and you'll just die. And you have to be very vigilant for Mr. P, especially if you're the last one standing. It sucks, but it's also like a cool mechanic. Um, if they added like some sort of theme to him, I think, or at least like footsteps, it probably would have been a little bit better. But I don't know. He's not bad. Um, on top of that, this was the first map to have a true ending as well as a good and bad ending. Um, the good and bad ending, I mean, they're there. Bad ending, super simple, right? You get knocked in the head, and that's about it. Whereas with the good ending, you actually leave in search of a cure. Again, it wraps up a very simplistic story of an apocalypse. Because obviously, like at the time, I think book two might have been thought up, but not very much. sorry about that. Whereas, so I completely lost my train of thought. Sorry. I don't do much editing either, so this will probably stick in the final build. Um, but yeah, so overall, map is good, but there are some implications that aren't exactly ideal. True ending, I think that's kind of where I was going on with. It it's a very simplistic true ending. Obviously, it's literally just picking up a photo in the city and then taking it to plant. Super easy true ending. Um, I'm gonna put it in probably B tier. Um, yeah, I'm gonna put it right there in B tier. Distorted memory. So obviously, this is a recreation of House. Um, it was very heavy in the story department because you obviously got to see a different character's point of view for the first time. Besides the true ending, we had Mr. or not Mr. P. We had Georgie's perspective. Um, this map did House way better. Like, an ideal House would probably look more like what Distorted Memory did, in my opinion. There's still certain issues with it, but for the time that you could actually play it, and you still obviously can if you're playing on a private server, but overall, I think the map was a lot better than House. Um, very interesting to play on. I'm still gonna put it like in the B tier, but probably more like low B tier compared to C tier. Not too much else to say about it. And with that, we get into book two. So there was a decent gap, if I recall correctly, before book two started. Yeah, so book two started in September 2020. So there is a bit of a gap before we really dug into book two here. Um, so I'll start with alleys. Obviously, this map was a prequel to a lot of the stuff that would come to happen. Um, I wouldn't call it a bad map by any means. Um, there was a obvious jump in quality once we got into book two. We had like the numbers for opening the first door. We had the whole Willow Chase segment. After that, we had the screwdriver. Um, it's a very decent map in that regard, or very good. Sorry, not very decent. A, a very good map in terms of quality. Um, Another thing is that it's like it could be killer Piggy sided. Um, One thing I notice whenever I play Book 2 alleys, a lot of people tend to camp when they play as Piggy on this map. That could just be me, but like once you open up Willow's area, a lot of people just place all their traps and camp in that hallway. It's super common. It absolutely sucks to deal with, but it's just kind of to be expected. Um, but if they don't do that, then it's actually a really well balanced map. Um, this map also had a lot of events to go on with it. Um, you had RBB, the uh, Easter egg hunts during uh, like all the Easter stuff. You had, I believe, a couple Halloween things going on with that map, with like picking up bones and stuff. You had the Ready Player 2 event on this map. There was a lot of events that kind of hit this map, and it was fun when that happened. Obviously, we got Rash as a skin, and then Officer Doggy as a skin, which were both, I would say, a decent jump up in quality for skins. Like, obviously, like Mr. P was a pretty high quality skin, but for the first two skins ever to come out, fairly solid skins. I'm gonna put this one in A tier. I'm gonna probably put it like high A tier. Store. Okay. I I don't really care for store. It's another map you can complete really quickly if you know what you're doing, and is this is actually one of the only maps, in my opinion, that can be very survivor sided because it is really hard to see people on this map. Obviously, piggies can still absolutely dominate on this map with how tight it is, but survivors are really good at staying away from the piggy on this map. Um, You had Dessa on this map, added as a skin. You also had the uniform pandy, which is one of my, like, I would say, like, more favored skins for book two. Um, but again, there's not too much going on with it. It's not too crazy. This is a map where, I mean, we saw a lot of story implications when, like, right out of the gate with book two, right? We have Willow in alleys. Now we have Zizzy being captured in store. But like gameplay wise, I just don't think it keeps up as much with the story. So I'm gonna put it at like high B tier, like right there. Refinery. Okay. So Refinery is kind of another interesting one. Gameplay wise, it's very unique. We have the first map to have more than like one secondary bot. In fact, there was a lot. I believe there was either six or seven secondary bots. Six. Yeah, so six secondary bots on the map, which was pretty interesting. Um, I forgot to mention with Store, you also had the owl skin quest. Not exactly crazy to do, but it was still interesting nonetheless. I don't like the owl skin very much. I'm just gonna be honest, but there's that. So going back to Refinery, gameplay wise, it's very unique. It's also kind of a linear map instead, but in terms of opening it, I guess. But like as a whole, the map is really interesting. Um, it's very balanced in my opinion because like survivors can definitely hide very well if they avoid the bots and have a lot of like different paths they can take to avoid the piggy. But obviously, if they do trigger the bots, it makes it very easily for piggy to just completely like dominate them while they have one or two bots on their tail. It's very easy for the piggy to just go from the front. They have nowhere to run. Um, with that said, we also had some story implications. Zizzy gets infected on this map, so kind of hits the emotional factor there. We had the Primrose skin quest, which is one of my favorite secret skin quests to do. Um, I'm gonna put this in A tier. In fact, I'm gonna put it probably like right. Ah, I'm gonna put it above Alley's actually, just by a little bit if I can get this to work. There we go. And we had the Tigray uniform skin as well on this map, which is a really cool skin. I think it is better than the original Tigray skin. Safe place. Oh, diddly darn boy. So, safe place is an interesting map. Um, when this map first came out, I actually completely disliked it. I thought it was very unique, and I still think it's a very unique map, being very vertical instead of like the typical like 1 to 2 story maps. It is 5 stories, so very vertical map. However, it is very piggy sided. Um, Especially on like infection or something, it is very piggy sided, very difficult for a survivor, even a decent survivor, to escape the map if the piggy just has a shred of knowledge of what to do, or if they just camp the whole map. Like, it is really, really hard to get out of those situations. Obviously, you have like the elevators to try and combat that, but a decent piggy can also kind of play around the elevators and can keep them also kind of tight. And you can obviously just place traps on one floor and then go to the other floor the elevator goes to and completely deal with that issue. Because then you'll likely hear the trap go off. Um, so it's a very piggy sided map. I think I have a better taste in my mouth of this map now. Like, the sour taste has kind of gone away now that I've let this map settle a little bit, but it's still not my favorite map. We had Rays as well for this map. I don't care for Rays too much. I think it's unfortunate that the skin was kind of meh for the map, especially for an interesting map in terms of story. Like getting the safe place completely bombed up was an interesting concept for sure. We also had Felix. Felix is kind of a mixed bag. Um, I personally think he's not bad. I don't like the skin so to speak, but his theme is kind of interesting and very different from the typical themes. I'm gonna put this one in B tier, um, right underneath Metro. Sewers. I love sewers. One of my favorite book two maps, in my opinion. Um, we had Alphys, which is a really interesting and different type of skin. The first bot who wasn't strictly just a follow the player everywhere you go type of bot, which was really nice. Um, it was Alphys is also the only skin for the map, but I think it was a really nice skin for the map. Very different type of skin. Overall, very balanced map in my opinion. Survivors can easily play around traps and stuff and can stay hidden, but piggies can very easily keep players locked into one or two areas if they know what they're doing. Um, I love the setting. It's very gritty, which we hadn't really had for a while. Just like a dark, gritty type of map. Um, we start to kind of see the insolence peaking more on this map. Like we've seen it a little bit towards the beginning of book two, but this is a map that like we actually start to get a little bit of ramifications with that. I'm gonna put it in A tier. Um, probably right there, like right in between refinery and alleys. Okay. Factory. Factory is a very interesting map. Obviously, um, it's a very unique map in the sense that you don't just escape with a white key. You actually have to knock Willow down 3 times before you can escape. And it had two endings, which impacted basically all the second half of book two later down the line. So obviously, that was kind of interesting in its own regard. Um, we had multiple characters added for skins. We had Coley, the bot of the map, which I think is kind of forgotten about quite a bit. Um, and we also had Katie, who is my one of my favorite skins in the game, especially her new alternate skin. And she's typically my default skin I play as if I'm not playing as TO, as most people like to refer to him as, aka the question mark skin. Typically, I'll play Katie if I'm not playing TO. Both of them are really cool in terms of their designs. Coley being a factory worker, um, and his design fits the map really well, and then Katie being the doctor. Her skin's also very interesting, um, and just fits really well. Um, the map, I like the map. I know some people completely dislike the map. It can be very piggy sided at times, but just the sheer amount of unique stuff the map brought. Again, not having a white key to escape all the time, which was really cool, and very different. Having Willow as an antagonist for once, who shot at you and could completely destroy you if you, especially if you're playing on player or infection, she could very easily ruin your chase in seconds. Um, no, I love the map. I think it's very unique. It's gonna go in this tier. In fact, I'm gonna put it above City here in terms of quality. Okay, so is this docks? Yeah, docks. Oh, not sorry, port, not docks. Docks is 9. I get docks and port mixed up for some reason. So here's the thing. I think port, and I hate to say this, I think port is a very forgettable map. I forget this map super often. Um, in terms of story, like, yeah, you get on a boat after the whole factory deal in order to go off to the other island or whatever, but like this map is super forgettable. I mean, I literally just said I forgot the name of the map and instead said docks when it's report. It's just such a forgettable map. Um, we had Dakota as the main bot, who again I think is just a forgettable skin. I don't remember it that often. Nothing really crazy happened with port. I mean, yeah, you had like the one crawler that would chase you around, but How many people actually remember that after the initial kind of hype for it? Not that many people. Uh, the map's rarely played, kind of like school or city. I'm gonna just, I don't know. I think it's super forgettable. It's a very unique map. We have the grappling hook and all that. Um, I would say it can be a little killer sided or piggy sided, but survivors can also very easily dominate the map if they know what they're doing. I'm just gonna put it kind of middle ground here. Um, Probably like right there. I don't know. There's not too much to go on with this map. Um, with that said, though, while I'm on port still, we also had my like absolute top tier skin, Cracks Accord. A bop of a theme. I love it, but it doesn't redeem the map. It really doesn't. Next up we have Ship. Ship is an interesting map as well. I think it can be forgettable, but at the same time, it is still a somewhat interesting map. Uh, the ending is one that kind of hits a little harder. The whole thing between Willow and the player. This map is very piggy-sided. I'm just gonna say it now. It is a very, very, very tight map, and a good piggy can end the match insanely quickly. Um, Especially if the survivors are not like at the top of their game and like getting places opened ASAP, they can very easily just completely shut down an area that you need to be in and screw over the game. Very picky sided. Um, Skins to come with this, we had both Archie, who is kind of forgettable, and then also Kamosi. I hope that's how you say it. Kamosi. Um, I believe that's the mummy. Another forgettable skin. He had an alternate skin at one point, which also didn't really do that much. He just made him look more like a pharaoh. Kind of same thing with port. Um, it's kind of forgettable. I'm actually gonna put it under port just because of the piggy-sidedness to it. But there are some somewhat unique things to happen there. Okay, docks. Docks is interesting. There was a lot to go on with it. Um, Number one, we got Marcus as a skin, who I don't see him often, but he's, you know, when I do see him in a game, it's kind of interesting. I like going up against a Marcus skin. The bot could teleport, which was always a very interesting concept. We got the crawling trap. I hope I didn't just start there. We had the crawling trap around there, which was interesting. That was a quest trap, and honestly, a huge lifesaver for people who will just sit around and do nothing. You can very easily just get him off from events and stuff. I use that to this day. Um, we later got Kona for a skin on this map, who's also, again, kind of interesting as well. I like Marcus's skin more than Kona personally, but there's that. Um, Very unique map in terms of mechanics. We had the whole candle thing. We had, again, the teleporting bot that kind of spiced up the bot gameplay. Um, the setting itself is, while kind of forgettable, also kind of interesting. Um, we had quite a bit of lore stuff that built up. This was the era where a lot of lore just kind of got dumped around, and we were kind of left to pick it up in random areas. But I wouldn't say it's bad. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and put this like right here. Okay, Temple. I like Temple, despite it being a very piggy-sided map. And by very piggy-sided, I mean like one of the most piggy-sided maps. It's very easy to completely shut down like half of the map with just one or two traps. But with that said, the story is very interesting. We got to look at the either you can call him Tio or the mystery guy or however you want to say it for the first time. Who I'm gonna refer to him as Tio. Very interesting skin there. Um, Obviously, we never got him like as that skin, but Like his character as a whole, the whole mystery behind him. He was kind of shoved in as kind of a last minute thought in my opinion, but like he still works as a character, as your kind of final antagonist of the story. We got Spadella on this map, as well as Fenna, two amazing skins. I believe I put Spadella in S tier when I was ranking the skins. And then Fenna, I think I put in A tier. Now I don't remember confidently, but I want to say it was S and A tier respectively. Um, Overall, very unique gameplay. I think the only thing really holding this map down was again just the piggy-sided gameplay. Like you don't even have to be good at piggy to lock down the map. I'm gonna put it in S. Well, mm, yeah, I'm gonna put it in S tier, kind of low S tier. Camp. So camp is another map I think is really good. I think like these two maps, both Temple and Camp, were kind of around the peak of Book 2. Um, both maps are really good, but talking about Camp, we had Delta as the main bot skin, who is a very cool skin in my opinion, having a rocket launcher for his weapon, which was really cool. We had other bots along the way. We had Laura as a quest skin, who is, in my opinion, one of the creepiest skins on the map, like in the game, and was just a super interesting skin when like you got her. Um, we had some cool mechanics like shooting a basically a cannon into a cave. We had the ropes, we had the whole door mechanic system. Like this is probably, in my opinion, one of the most unique maps in the game, and is super fun to play on, despite it not being played very much from the games that I get on Book 2. Story implication, like the whole ending cutscene was badass between Willow and Tigray. Super cool there. A lot of story implications. Seeing, I believe it was Daisy as well who became a soldier and all that. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is definitely going into S tier though. Just everything about the map was really, really cool. Um, okay, so lab. Um, lab is interesting to talk about. Talking about it just based on what it presents to you, it's a very bland map in my opinion. It's trying to do what Plant did in Book 1 and just do it slightly better. And it did do it slightly better. But at the end of the day, it just feels like a sequel to Plant. You have a rather simplistic first phase, which once you figure out how to do it, can be done in like under 2 minutes. And then the second phase is literally just a recreation of the second phase in Book 1, but slightly harder and with Sentinels now. There's not much to say about it in terms of gameplay if you're just looking at the map itself. Um, and then the endings, obviously, there are 4 endings, most endings in any base map. So that was kind of crazy, having to go get all of those. Obviously, some of them were pretty similar to one another, but they're still interesting nonetheless. Um, but yeah, on its own, it's a very bland map. But when you start to add things like the hidden ending, some of the lore implications, all of that, that's when the map really starts to shine, especially the hidden ending. Um, the hidden ending was a very big deal when it came out. Um, Obviously, like it's a harder process to even get to the hidden ending, and then once you get to the map and you start the hidden ending, the map completely shifts and it becomes a very interesting map. The setting for the hidden ending is very intense. Um, Back on day one, it was a very difficult ending to get. I remember a lot of players struggled with this one, mainly because of both Tio's speed, like you could never shake him, as well as the Sentinels, which would very quickly get in your way. I think they nerfed him later, but back during the initial hunt, it was a uh, pretty big ending and a very hard ending to do. But obviously, super worth it with the ending that you got. It was very interesting ending, which still leaves quite a few questions in the air, which hopefully Intercity kind of answers a little bit. And obviously, we also got the Tio skin, which is probably the most detailed skin to this day, and the biggest skin this day. Like people who own that typically are like decent players at the game. They're more respected. Um, for that reason, I'm gonna go ahead and put this in A tier, but just in A tier. Like there's better maps. Um, so then we get to a few just kind of extra maps that I want to touch on real quick. Also with Plant, we had the distorted Piggy, which was a very interesting bot and also one of the creepier bots. But anyway, so gonna quickly go over these ones. These ones should take less time. Starting with Heist. Um, the primary bot is obviously Polly, and is it Pony you play as or Willow? Willow or Pony. Okay, so you play as one of the two characters. Um, it's a recreation of Alleys. Between Alleys and Heist, like they're both equally good in their own ways. I think the gameplay here is very interesting. Just the whole way it is set up. Um, I feel like Distraction was kind of talked about more than Heist, but Heist still has quite a few story implications that are really interesting to talk about. Um, I believe, was there a skin that was released? Yeah, we got Toby. Toby's super forgettable, I'm gonna be honest. But he is still a cool skin to those who actually remember him. Um, and I believe this was also the map that Washed in the River, the music song, was put in, which is a very, very good song. I didn't really talk about music that much. Music isn't a huge part of this game, but when it is, it's usually pretty solid. Watching the River, like I said, very good song. With Plant, you had both For You to Stay and Angel, which I still listen to this day. They're both very good music tracks. Um, you had Lab with Let Go, if I remember, that's the music song, which that's also a really good one. So props to those songs because they're very well made. I'm gonna go ahead and put this one basically right next to Alley's here, just a little bit higher though, just for stuff like the music and all that. Distraction. So this was obviously based on Refinery and Zizzy's whole thing while she's getting infected. We had Twins as a bot skin, which is a pretty unique skin. Not exactly game breaking, but a decent skin nonetheless. Um, the map in question is very unique. I would say it's fairly balanced. Like there's a few times where Piggy can kind of overpower a survivor, especially in the Sentinel maze. But if they know what they're doing, I think survivors can be just fine on this map. Um, the story itself is kind of interesting. I do like what the story does with this map. It did leave quite a few questions hanging in the air though, which I don't know if they ever got answered or not. I really don't feel like they did. Um, it kind of confirmed the whole thing between Zizzy and Pony as well, which was obviously a pretty big deal. Overall, I'm gonna go ahead and put this map again, kind of right next to Refinery here. Um, kind of same thing like what I did with Heist, just slightly better, um, but nothing groundbreaking. Okay, so sorry if the cut is really bad. Um, Evidently my mic completely stopped working like halfway through this video. So if there's a random cut, I'm super sorry for that. Um, so RB battles. I'm gonna make this one super brief. The map's okay. Um, the thing with the map is that it works, um, but at the time that it came out, it wasn't exactly anything crazy. One of the biggest issues was that only one person could get the badge, which was kind of the big reward for beating the map. Only the first person who escaped actually got the badge, which made it super uh, like difficult at times and a little controversial in terms of getting the reward. Some players, it was really hard to get it unless you were on a private server, which even then, I don't know if private servers always worked for the map, if it even did at all, so it could be a little tricky getting that badge. Um, Nothing too noteworthy. It was still kind of an interesting map. I'm going to go ahead and just put it in the C tier over here. And then Winter Holiday. A very refreshing map, honestly. It As a festive map, it's very fun. Being able to just go around and get presents. It's a very survivor-sided map, which can kind of detract from it. Like as Piggy, it's not fun to play, but as a survivor, it's kind of a relaxed map. You had Frost Tiggy, which was kind of an interesting skin there. Um, I'm gonna go ahead and put it in B tier, just kind of uh, mm, like right here. Like not bad map, just a nice break from everything, honestly. So, and then the two maps that aren't on here that I would like to talk about real quick were Breakout and Mansion. Both of them were a lot creepier in design, just on purpose. Breakout, especially, being much darker and grittier. Um, both of them utilized first person quite a bit. Breakout, especially, being like strictly first person. Mansion, like, you don't have to be first person, but typically it's more fun to play first person and um, all that. I'll start with Mansion. Mansion, Duokara is an interesting bot, one of the most unique bots in the game. The Secret Quest skin I didn't really care for that much, but some people liked the whole vampire skin idea, so I'll kind of include it in there. Kind of like Winter Holiday, it's just a nice breather, a very laid back map with no story well, I guess I shouldn't say that. A little bit of story implications, but nothing too crazy in terms of story implications. I think it's more a map that's kind of building up the inner city, which will be fun to play around with. I would be putting it in A tier, like right above Heist, but underneath Sewers. That's where I'd put it. Definitely not a bad map. And then Breakout is my personal favorite map right now. Definitely in the S tier above Factory, or like right around Factory. Very dark and gritty map. Gameplay wise, very unique. It's really good for those who have a little bit of experience with the game. So, like, new players are going to struggle on the map quite a bit, but I think it's a good learning curve. The Umbra is a very creepy skin, and I love it. Um, the setting is very disturbing and gritty and dark. Um, Tigery's whole story is really well touched upon here. Um, but yeah, so definitely S tier, top of the list, for me at least. But other than that, that is the entire list. Um, Unless there's any that I missed, let me know if I did, but I don't think I did. And if you want me to do any more of these, by all means, give me ideas. And thanks for watching. Hopefully, I made your day a little bit. See you guys on the next one.